Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of WP SportsDesk on WPTV. I'm your host, Mason Mills. Lots of sports action going on this week. And this week, to break it all down, we have Wyatt Kalb with William Paterson football, Greg Bloss with the NFL, and as usual, Giuseppe Zarfino with Major League Baseball. Wyatt, start us off. What do we got?
Well, today, Mason, we're going to be doing a couple of things that we have not done before. We're going to be breaking down the plays from Salisbury University, a little triple option, and talking about William Paterson's hard luck loss against Salisbury this past Saturday.
Good stuff. Giuseppe, you're on the diamond. What do we got?
Mason, the ALDS came to a close, so we're going to find out if history was made in Toronto. And for the NLCS, going back to Chicago, we're going to find out if the Dodgers are in trouble.
Looking forward to it. Greg, what do we got with the NFL?
All right, we're going to be talking some quarterback situations. Jets making a change, Cowboys not making a change, and I'll unveil Bloss's best. Find out what that is.
Looking forward to it. Stay with us through the break. William Paterson football is up next. Welcome back to the desk. We're here to talk William Paterson football with Chris, Wyatt, Dylan, and Chris. Let's kick it off, guys. Pioneers face one of the most prolific defenses in D3 football. Tell me what went wrong.
Well, if we take a look at the stats right here, Salisbury University did an incredible job of running the ball as they've done all year. They ran the ball 61 times for 483 yards. 30 first downs. They had over 530 yards of total offense. That outnumbered everything that William Paterson had to throw right back at him. Salisbury really put a beating down on William Paterson here in Wayne, New Jersey.
Salisbury is one of the teams that executed their offense perfectly. You know, this is a team that William Paterson saw and basically should have known that, you know, we're in trouble from the start. They had 15 different people rush the ball. 15. You know, They weren't playing any games. They were ready. They came ready to play, and they came out on top.
Dylan, what'd you see?
I saw a whole lot of Salisbury offense, point blank. I mean, the stats show it. The defense for William Paterson was a no-show. Bottom line, fellas. And usually it's one or two plays which break the Pioneers' back, but it was just pure domination from the get-go.
Yeah, domination is a fitting word, but it was a mix of one team having probably their best game of the year, one team having one of their worst games of the year. Salisbury wanted a rebound. They just lost to Rowan the week before. They were looking for a rebound victory, and everything was going wrong for William Paterson. So it's just tough. When it's raining, it starts pouring. You just want to get to the locker rooms, get it over with.
And this is the second consecutive year, Chris, as you just said, Salisbury might have had their best game of the season. Probably the second year in a row they've had their best season against the Pioneers.
And if we take a look right here, this is one of the turning points of the game. William Paterson had the ball on their own 20-yard line going deep, and Isaiah Diaz-May is going to throw an interception, and it's going to be returned back for a pick six. Actually, it was an incredible play by the defensive end who made the standing catch going out for a screen pass. That'll be taken in for a touchdown. Salisbury would go on to win this game, put up 77 points, and that's 9 more points than they had last year against William Paterson, which is incredible to say the least. Their rushing attack was by far the best we're going to see, and any team is going to see in the NJAC or in the country for that matter.
One thing you didn't mention from that video, though, is where William Paterson started on the field. Most of their drives started within their own 20. You can't expect an offense to get going every single time.
Well, that's the thing. The defense for Salisbury was almost as good as the offense.
And it was tough because William Paterson was 0 for 11 in third down conversion. That's a problem they had in the past, and we've talked about that. So they need to do better executing going forward.
Right. Now, fellas, Salisbury clearly utilizing their running offense much more. Let's talk about how other teams have fared up against this rushing attack from them.
Well, yeah, Mason, when you look at the numbers here, it's been all Salisbury all year. The Seagulls have been flying high, especially when it comes to rushing the ball. Two things are standing out to me the most here on the screen right now. 27 rushing touchdowns midway through the season is absolutely incredible. Most NFL teams don't get 27 touchdowns through an entire season. And then the yards per game on the ground. Nearly 400 yards per game when rushing the ball. Again, the Seagulls offense is a machine, and it's just well-oiled, zero signs of slowing down.
Yeah, it makes sense as to why they have almost 43 points per game.
Right.
When you're rushing the ball for 400 yards per game, now 500 total yards per when do you ever hear an offense have 400 to 100 passing to rushing? I've never even heard of that. That's ridiculous on any level.
Now, fellas, what also stood out is the way that Salisbury offense ran the triple option. So we're going to throw it over to Wyatt and CJ to break that down for us. Fellas?
Well, thanks, Mason. Now, I'm sitting here with Chris Johnson. Now, he's a former defensive back for the William Paterson Pioneers. He played last year, so he can help us break down the defense. I'm here to help break down the offense here for Salisbury. They ran the triple option. Now, with the triple option, obviously, there's 3 different options to go to. There's the quarterback, there's the fullback, then there's the wingback. Now, if we take a look at the first play here, Salisbury was on the goal line going in. Now, they have 5 offensive linemen down here with a tight end on each side. But these aren't tight ends, all right? There's a left tackle and a right tackle, backups, I guess, that they brought in. And that forces William Paterson to play another guy on top of him. And that spreads the defense out a lot, especially when you put a wingback behind him.
So a key note of what you said is spread the defense out. So we're going to see Rakeem Bennett. He's going to be spread out on top of him, which is allowing this side of the ball to be effective. So we're going to see Ryan Jones, if we roll the clip right now, we're going to see Ryan Jones fake his first option to the fullback, and he has a choice to option it off to a second guy, but he says, no, I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to get this touchdown.
Now, that's the first option right there. Ryan Jones takes it in. That's really easy when you have to worry about 3 other guys on the defensive side of the ball. Now, if we take a look at the second play right here, Salisbury is going in, almost the same formation. They're going to have the wing back on this tight end left tackle, a hybrid tackle is what you want to call it. Now, what they're doing here is they're spreading the defense out. A lot of these guys, William Paterson is stacking the box on the left side. It's going to be pretty easy going to the right for this second option to the wing back.
It's 4th and a half yard. What do? You get in your goal line formation. This is William Paterson's goal line formation. They brought in 2 extra down linemen. 2. And they took out Tyler Gross and Taheem Jackson. So if we take a look at this clip, we're going to see Darius Flowers struggle to get off a block, and he's the only guy. He is outside contained. His job is to force the ball back inside, and he just didn't do that.
Yeah, that's really easy for a Salisbury offense when the right tackle gets a reach block on that defensive end, and they only have 1 guy to beat, which is Darius Flowers. Now, the last play is probably the easiest out of all of them. They're just going to go straight to the fullback right here, good for a gain about 25.
If you look closely at this play once it starts rolling, you're going to see all these 3 guys, their bodies are turned that way. One thing that Salisbury does great is they execute their fakes. So let's take a look at this clip and watch these 3 guys. Watch the way their bodies turn. Now they have to come back, and thank God for Tyler Gross to be athletic as he is to chase down the runner.
Now, this is not a knock at all on the William Paterson defense, but more of praising how good this Salisbury offense has been for the past couple of years and this season. But that's breaking down the triple offense between me and CJ. Back to you, Mason.
Thank you, fellas. That's all the time we have here for William Paterson Sports. Coming up next is baseball and World Series talk. Don't go away. Welcome back. The World Series is fast approaching, so let's keep the playoff baseball talk going and head over to the ALCS showdown in Toronto.
The Toronto Blue Jays are facing elimination here in Toronto in Game 5 against the Cleveland Indians. Top of the first, Mike Napoli's bat answers the call as that one bounces off the wall and left, but Carrera is going to bobble it, and Francisco Lindor is going to come across the score all the way from first to give the Cleveland Indians a 1-0 lead early. Top of the third, Carlos Santana. He does his best impersonation of Jose Bautista as he watches that one sail out of there. The Cleveland Indian fans in Toronto giving Santana a standing ovation as he crosses the plate, making it a 2-0 lead for the Indians. Top of the fourth, the veteran Coco Crisp sends one of his own over the wall and right. That's going to pad the lead for the Indians, making it a 3-0 ball game as Marco Estrada's struggles continue early in the ball game. Back in Cleveland, the fans are having quite a year as the Indians try to go all the way to the World Series. Bottom of the ninth, Troy Tulowitzki trying to salvage the season for the Blue Jays. He's going to pop it up into foul territory, and Carlos Santana makes the final out, sending the Indians to the World Series, a 19-year in the making win.
Thank you, Giuseppe. For more on the Cleveland game, we're going to bring in our correspondent, Joe Rea.
Mason, the Cleveland Indians are headed to the World Series for the first time since 1997, winning the ALCS in 5 games. The stars of the series were Francisco Lindor and Andrew Miller. Lindor hit .336 in the ALCS, while the rest of the team hit a combined .138. That is the lowest average by a team to win a postseason series ever. Miller became the second relief pitcher in postseason history to toss 7 scoreless innings with 14 strikeouts, walking away with the series MVP award. The Indians take on the NLCS winner in Game 1 of the World Series Tuesday in Cleveland.
Thank you, Joe. Now, fellas, since the Indians clinched about a week before the World Series, they got a lot of time before the big games start. So is this going to work against them, Giuseppe?
You know what? I think it's going to go both ways. They have enough time to watch the Cubs and the Dodgers play, so they're going to see what they need to work on, what they need to get against the Cubs and Dodgers to virtually beat them in the World Series.
Jake, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think this helps them.
Okay.
Their bullpen has enough time to, reload. Andrew Miller could, rest that arm up, not give up any more runs.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with what Giuseppe said. It could go either way. I mean, it could go badly because you have guys like Daniel Murphy last year for our beloved New York Mets. He hit over 500 in the NLCS, and then there was 6 days off between then and the World Series, and he only hit 150 in the World Series. But it could benefit them for guys who are worn down, like Jake said. Andrew Miller, he pitched 7.2 innings in 5 games and 16 batters.
I think the key here is Terry Francona. We look at what he's done in postseasons before. He's one of the best postseason managers we see in our lifetime, for sure. I mean, the way he deals with these long-time breaks and everything, it's phenomenal. He's going to keep this team ready.
Now let me throw another one at you. The Indians are either going to be facing the Dodgers or the Cubs. Either way, are they the underdog? Tell me what you think.
I don't think they are the underdog when they face the Dodgers. If they're going against the Cubs, I think they will be the underdog. But I will say this, and I'm going to talk to my friend Steve, who lives in Chicago, is a big, diehard Chicago fan. That streak can go on another year. The Cleveland Indians are winning the World Series.
Are they not?
Yes, they are.
Craig, what do you think?
I'm going to say yes against the Cubs. They're the underdogs,
Okay.
but no against the Dodgers. Same thing as Antonio here. The Cubs were the favorites all year to win the World Series. So there's no way that the Indians could be the favorites against the Cubs, even if the Indians beat the Boston Red Sox and Toronto back-to-back. I think the Cubs are still the favorites.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to do something that's a rarity on this show, and I'm going to agree with those two over there. Kind of. I'm going to say that they are not the underdogs. Because they were not the underdogs now, but in the regular season, if this was a regular season game, they would be. But the way they've been playing and pitching now, Andrew Miller in the bullpen doing great things for him, Carlos Santana, Mike Napoli, and Francisco Lindor, the way they've been hitting for them now, this team is almost unbeatable.
I think it's safe to say the Indians are the favorite. They have the least amount of errors in the postseason of all the teams, and they have the lowest ERA, 1.77. They're playing the best right now, and I think they're the favorite.
Good stuff, guys. So we got 2 more teams competing for a spot in the World Series. So let's take a look at yesterday's game between the Cubs and the Dodgers. Giuseppe?
At Chavez Ravine, Anthony Rizzo and the Cubs are looking to take Game 5 against the Dodgers. Kenta Maeda on the mound for the Dodgers. Anthony Rizzo is going to send this one into the corner in right field. Dexter Fowler, who was on the move from first, is going to score all the way from first, making it a 1-0 lead for the Cubs early as Anthony Rizzo gets in with the RBI double. Bottom of the second, John Lester on the mound for the Cubbies. Jock Peterson at the plate. He's going to bunt this one towards third base. Lester's going to pick it up and bounce it to Rizzo to get the final out of the inning in style. Bottom of the fourth, Howie Kendrick is going to try to steal base, and he's going to be called out immediately. But upon further review, Chris Bryant did not get the glove down in time, and the umps would reverse the call, and Kendrick would be safe at third. Gonzalez still up in the bottom of the fourth. He's going to ground this one to Rizzo. Rizzo bobbles the ball, but they do get the out at first. But a run comes across to score as Kendrick crosses the plate, tying the ball game up at 1 apiece. Top of the sixth, Addison Russell at the plate, and this continues to be the year of the youngsters as Addison Russell sends this one over the wall, a no-doubter as the Cubs bats continue to stay fired up in the past 2 games. Bottom of the seventh, Grandal at the plate. He's going to ground this one to second. Another ground ball forced by John Lester as his night come to a close. David Ross congratulating the pitcher on a game well pitched. Top of the eighth, Dexter Fowler at the plate. Fowler grounds this one to Gonzalez. Gonzalez is not going to make the throw to home. He's going to try to go to first, but Fowler beats him at first, and a run comes across to score. Still the top of the eighth. Chris Bryant at the plate with runners on the corners. Bryant grounds this one to Turner, but Turner's not going to get him out at first as another run comes across the score for the Cubs, making it a 5-1 ball game. And still the top of the eighth. Bases loaded for Javier Baez. He hits this one off the wall and right. That one's going to be bobbled by Puig as he tries to make the throw as quickly as possible. 2 runs come across the score for the Cubs, making this a 6-run ball game. Javier Baez is a little hurt, but he's going to be okay as the Cubs win this one by a score of 8-4 and take a 3-2 series lead back to Chicago.
Now, fellas, Dodgers, they need to pull ahead with the Cubs here. What pieces are they missing to get that done?
You know what? I think the Dodgers, they worked on their pitching. I talked about Rich Hill last week not being such a great pitcher for the Dodgers, but he proved me wrong, and he really showed up for him. But then they have Urias, and Urias really needs to work on himself. And then they got guys in the bullpen like Joe Blanton, who pitched really well for them up until the NLCS. And this whole thing with Clayton Kershaw pitching, Kenley Jansen pitching, and Rich Hill being their best pitchers, it's not going to work for them in the World Series if they make it that far.
I think that their problem has been their overuse of their bullpen. Look at last night. They pulled Kenta Maeda after 3 2/3 innings for a reliever to go against John Lester. I don't know what they're doing there. I think they're overusing their bullpen. I don't think their bullpen's very good, but it had been working up until last night.
It's just like he said, the overusing of the bullpen. They're taking the starters out way too early, even though they're pitching well. Joe Blanton, Pedro Baez, Ross Stripling, it's not cutting it for him. The only one that's working is Jansen. It's the same issue as last year, same issue as the regular season. The Dodgers bullpen is not good enough.
Jake, wrap it up for
I'm
us.
just going to have to agree. Their bullpen is simply not good enough, but the fielding does not help either. They're making errors. They're not hitting as well, and Clayton Kershaw can't pitch every game for you. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Thank you, fellas. That'll do it for baseball. Stay tuned because we have some NFL action coming at you right after this. Welcome back to WP Sports Desk. Are you ready for some football? We sure are. I've got Wyatt, Greg, Chris, and Ryan to break down the NFL, but first, we'll go to Justin with our top story.
Thanks, Mason. After a 1-5 start this season, Jets head coach Todd Bowles has announced that he has benched starting quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick in favor of Geno Smith. Fitzpatrick has thrown only 5 touchdowns and an abysmal league-leading 11 interceptions. In the first 6 games this year, Geno Smith was expected to start over Fitzpatrick, but last year, before a teammate broke his jaw in a fight.
Thank you, Justin. Now, fellas, let's talk about that. Was it the right decision to bench Fitzpatrick? We had options to go with Geno Smith or Bryce Petty. Tell me about the decisions here.
Well, I'd actually, I know he's recovering from injury, but I'd go with Bryce Petty as soon as possible. They're probably going to get a high pick, and they need to know if they need to use that pick on quarterback or if they want to shore up their defense.
Bryce Petty's irrelevant. He really is. You're paying someone $12 million.
Did you watch him preseason? He looked good.
Yeah, sure, preseason. That means
he
nothing.
He has the arm. He has the physical tools.
Look, Petty, bad. Fitzpatrick, bad. Smith, bad. Hagenberg, yikes. You might as well put the one out there that you're paying $12 million. Why would you?
I'm completely in agreement with
Play
you.
him.
You do not sign somebody in the offseason that you're just going to sit on the bench. You don't sit down $12 million. You don't sit down $20 million. I'll go Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It's only a 1-year deal. It's only a 1-year deal. Listen, the season's over. They're 1-5, correct? Season's over.
Absolutely correct.
Maybe Geno deserves this start this week. See what he has. It's probably nothing. I think we all agree it's nothing. And maybe once Petty's healthy, I think I agree with Greg. However, it really doesn't matter. They're so bad.
They're terrible. Now, fellas, let's keep the conversation on Fitzpatrick. We saw him get re-signed. Was this a good idea?
Absolutely. They had no other option. You might have got lucky with someone in the draft. You took Hackenberg. You didn't get lucky, clearly. You had no other option. You had to pay him because there was no other option. You had nothing left to do because you waited too long. That's all on the Jets. It's all their fault.
I clamored for him in the offseason. I wanted the Jets. I talked to all of you during the offseason. I said Jets need to sign Fitzpatrick, but now looking back, it was a mistake. He has 0 touchdowns in the second half to 10 interceptions. He's costed this team multiple games. It was a mistake.
See, but my thing is that it's really, really hard to blame a team for going with the hot hand. Over last year, Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing really well. He had 5, at the time right now, he has 5 touchdowns. He also has 11 interceptions. It's clearly a stark contrast to where he was last year, where he had interceptions within 10 or so and a lot of more touchdowns.
I think the mistake was waiting too long because not only did he miss the offseason workouts, but they drafted Christian Hackenberg. Now they have 4 quarterbacks. He's stunting the growth of Peyton Hackenberg because they aren't getting reps.
Now let's flip it over to Dallas. Cowboys decided to keep Dak Prescott. Good move, bad move? Greg, what do you think?
Here's what I do. I'd stick with the hot hand. Keep Dak in for now. If he loses a game or two, maybe then you go back to Romo. Then the offseason, trade Romo, see what you can get.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Dak is the hot hand. He's taking care of the football. He had a couple fumbles against the Packers. I think only one of them was lost. But you know the reason the Cowboys are winning is that offensive line and then their #1 draft pick, Ezekiel Elliott. He's been phenomenal.
Guys, are we ready to hand the key to the city to Dak Prescott? It's been 7 weeks. Let's calm down. There's a franchise quarterback. You can't back away from your franchise quarterback.
He's in his late 30s and he's fragile.
But he's still the franchise quarterback. The next 7 weeks, Dak Prescott could throw 7 straight interceptions. It doesn't matter.
I don't think that would happen because
look at the
they go
Broncos
back to
last
Romo,
year.
like I
Look at the
said.
Broncos last year. What did they do? Went back to the franchise guy because you have to wait on development. Yeah, he's done great. you have to give him a lot of credit. But guess what? Anyone can do great with that good of a running game.
But
Going back to the Ryan Fitzpatrick argument, you can't sit down $28 million. Jerry Jones has believed in Tony Romo for a number of years, almost 10 years now. You have to go with him. However, I will say that Dak Prescott right now should be the starter until Romo is 100% healthy. His injury history is extremely proven to where he's not the most durable player ever. So we should wait for him to get to 100%, and then we go back to our quarterback.
Right. Let's talk about the Steelers, guys. Big Ben, knee injury, out possibly 4 to even 6 weeks. Are we going to see the Steelers kind of just plummet from here, or can they survive without
I think
him?
they can survive. It's going to be hard because Big Ben, as we know, is an all-time great. He's their leader. But they went 2-2 last year, and he was out. They split. And Landry Jones isn't very good, but they have that, in my opinion, the best running back in the league when healthy. As you can see in the next 4 games, they got a tough matchup against the Patriots, but then they're playing the Ravens, which is a winnable game. Then the Cowboys at 5-1, another tough matchup, and the Browns, they should win. So it's very possible they could split these 2 games.
Well, looking at the Ravens' record, they're 3-3. That shows how Pittsburgh will be just fine because the Ravens are in second place, 3-3, 500. They're not crazy good. So Pittsburgh doesn't have to be this stellar team to win their division because the Browns aren't beating them. They're 0-6. Right. The Bengals have been awful. So to be honest, Pittsburgh can just get by playing 500 ball and still win the division.
I think the Ravens could potentially pull out that win a few weeks from now because they do have a good defense.
Landry Jones is a 4th-round draft pick, guys. You don't get drafted that high without having some sort of ability. He was a very good quarterback coming out of Oklahoma, and he should show us something. This is why they drafted him.
That's the offense they had, though, out in Oklahoma. Like, it's the Big 12. Defense is optional. He really didn't show much last year. It's more because of Le'Veon Bell.
True, it was because of Le'Veon Bell, but also at the same time, he was coming in relief for Ben Roethlisberger. This time, he's actually going to take control of the team for 4 to 6 weeks, and we can actually see what he actually have on him. You don't draft backup quarterbacks for nothing.
Right. So, guys, now we're going to close out the show with a new segment, Bloss's Best, where Greg is going to give us his top 5 plays of the week. Greg?
All right, number 5, the Chiefs-Raiders game in Oakland. It was rainy. Andre Holmes get mugged, but he's going to make the catch in the back of the end zone. However, the Chiefs got the last laugh, 26-10. Number 4 now, Packers-Cowboys. Lacy's going to make a few cuts to get out the backfield. And watch him press the Y button there and jump over Byron Jones. Get another look at that. You'll see when he jumps over Jones, his form is perfect. Makes me wonder if he did hurdles in high school. However, the Cowboys ended up winning that game. Number 3, Sunday night. Osweiler's going to find Lamar Miller over the middle. He's trying to get to the sideline. Knows that's not going to work. He's going to make a few guys miss. Cut back to Mill. He's going to get into the end zone for a touchdown. That helped Houston come back and win the game in overtime. Number 2, Titans-Browns. Not the most exciting game, but Marcus Mariota's going to go up top. Kendall Wright is going to lay out for it, make the catch. He's going to get up, get into the end zone for a touchdown. And that would end up propelling them to victories. They won 28-26. Number 1 now. We're going to go to the Panthers-Saints game, a shootout. Breeze is going to step up in the pocket. He's going to take a huge hit. He's going to throw up to Josh Hills. He makes the jumping catch in back of the end zone for a touchdown. The Saints will end up winning on a last-second field goal.
Thank you, Greg. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of WP Sports Desk. I'd like to thank our analysts, our crew, and of course our studio manager, Al Clark. Join us next week for more in-depth analysis from Studio B in Hobart Hall. I'm Mason Mills. See you next week.